Hey, it's Jeanette with Travel Listin. Life is short, the time is now. I just wanted to help answer some of your questions about how we do this travel planning and what goes into these trips. And so if you have more questions, obviously drop them in the comments, but I'll try to be pretty thorough and not take up too much of your time. So first thing is, where do you want to go? Well, we knew we wanted to go to India, and there were a couple of sites that we wanted to see there. So the first thing we did is check and see, is it safe to travel there right now? And this means not only for US citizens, but also is there any sort of political or government upset? Are there any diseases or viruses or outbreaks? So once we looked at all the travel advisories and the travel requirements, what they needed in order for us to get in country, had to make a couple little changes. So my travel companion's passport was going to expire at the end of January right now. But when you're traveling to India, they do require that your passport be valid for 6 months after your departure stay. So 6 months beyond your longest time that you're staying in that country. So we did need to run through and get some of that paperwork done. But luckily we had time. We started planning this quite a while ago. So we were able to get that updated. After that, there is a visa process that you have to do once you've booked your flights and everything. You actually cannot file the e-visa until 30 days prior to your arrival. So that part's a little bit anxious because there's no guarantee you're going to be allowed into the country. But it was relatively painless. It was just a matter of typing in our personal information and updated headshots and providing the contact information for where we would be staying while we were in country. So nothing really complicated there. The next thing we do is we look at what are the places we want to see while we're there, or what are some of the experiences that we want to encounter. Then we try to figure out the airports that are near those different locations and what sort of transportation is available to us to get from one place to the next. Now, when it comes to booking internationally, that's where the majority of the cost was. So India is very affordable in your day-to-day life, whether that's your lodgings or whether you're, traveling around getting a cab or even a driver or renting a scooter. Even the food, all of that is relatively inexpensive in country, but it was that international stuff that was a little bit problematic because we were on a budget for this trip, and we also had a really specific time that we were allowed to travel. So it was really a bit of going online and saying, is it cheaper if we leave on a Tuesday or if we leave on a Wednesday? What if we leave in the morning on this day instead of the afternoon? And we found out that our best option for this trip was going to be a bunch of one-way tickets. So to go from JFK right in New York City to Mumbai with a layover in Paris, France, and CDG. So we went JFK, CDG, BOM, and from there, all of the travel that we did in country was done on either Air India or Indigo. Great airlines, very affordable, very easy to navigate, all of that. And then our flight home was going to be out of Delhi. And that one was on, I think, Qatar Airlines or Ethiopian Airlines. I don't know. We took a lot of airlines, but they were all pretty wonderful. And we found that that was the most affordable way that we could get to kind of like all the things that we wanted to see and still manage to get home within that restricted time frame. After we lock in our flights, then we lock in our lodging. And that's kind of exciting because you get to say, oh, where am I going to stay? Is it going to be super fancy, or is it going to be a hostel, youth hostel or something, which I'm a little too old for now, I think. But it's fun to kind of look at what your different options are. For that, I would recommend that you read reviews from people that are in the same country that you call home. So if a whole bunch of Americans are saying this place is terrible, you might want to trust that it wouldn't meet your quote unquote American standards. But I like to try and leave reviews and be as honest as possible about just kind of like what the limitations were or what I was, misinformed about or anything. And also what really exceeded my expectations. Maybe that's specific staff that you can call out by name, or maybe it's services that they didn't advertise on their website but are available. So once we locked in our lodging, we pretty much felt like the trip was ready to go. And we made an appointment with Passport Health. So I wanted to just show you, redacted to protect the innocent. I just wanted to show you this fantastic little booklet that they put together for us. Now, Passport Health is a clinic. It doesn't necessarily accept your health insurance, so there is a little bit of like an out-of-pocket cost, but I think it was somewhere around $150 for the consultation. And they provided all of this information for us about like what, just like I said, the travel restrictions and requirements to get into these different countries. And then they really said, like, what are you hoping to do while you're there? Are you going to be in contact with livestock? Are you going to be in the jungle? And I was like, yes. So then they made all of these recommendations for what vaccines they think that we should probably be getting. So I was pretty lucky that I had a yellow fever vaccine a long time ago, and it's like a one and done, good forever. But we did opt into a typhoid vaccine. So there's two different options that we had for that. I went with the oral pills, which are these little capsules. You take 4 of them every other day for a week or so before you leave. That vaccine's good for up to 5 years. My travel companion went with the injection, so that's good for 2 years. So it's just a matter of what you think is best for you and what's going to fit your needs and your lifestyle. And you can certainly talk with your own personal doctor about any of those decisions. And the other thing we opted into, obviously, was malaria. Most of the world is affected by malaria. We're really blessed here in the US not to have to deal with that. So they just kind of show you on the map where you're traveling. Is it going to be, a potentially hazardous place? There were some other, concerns, things like rabies and whatnot that we said, hey, we're not really in any activities that's going to lead to a likelihood of that. And the specific places that we were traveling didn't really require anything else. But when it comes to malaria, we do start that medication before you go, take it every day that you're there, and then for like 4 weeks after the fact. And you have a lot of different options for malaria nowadays. There's at least 3 different that I know of. And so we opted for one that was not going to create antibiotic resistance. And we opted for one that was not known to cause like psychosis or hallucinations or nightmares. And so we opted into the third one because it seemed safest for us. And then we purchased this fantastic product from Passport Health. And this is insect repellent that goes on your clothing. You basically spray it all over everything until it's damp, let it dry, and then bundle it all up inside your luggage. This I thought was really great because it's one more layer of protection against malaria. And also it kind of made me figure out what am I packing and get my wardrobe figured out ahead of time. We also purchased from Passport Health this little teeny tiny bug spray, so it fits the travel requirements. It's small enough that you can take it right through TSA without needing to pull it out or do anything extra with it. This was 12-hour all day, and it was waterproof, but we did reapply. So after we were swimming in the ocean or whatever, put it on. And then also we realized that the only time we were really getting bitten was at night, so we went ahead and used some of this right before bed as well. So we weren't using mosquito netting or anything like that. Those are obviously options and choices that you have, but we felt pretty comfortable with all of that. And then we decided to get some prebiotics and probiotics. So these are just over the counter. They're a chewable gummy and they actually taste delicious like peaches. Not recommending this particular brand over any other, but that's always a good idea to help your gut get ready for something new when you're going to a new place with new tastes, new experiences, new flavors and whatnot. So we took that for a couple of weeks before we went. Passport Health also wrote us a prescription for traveler's diarrhea, which luckily we didn't need to fill, or we filled it, but we didn't need to use it. So we brought that with us. And we also got some over-the-counter meds. So in keeping with the diarrhea theme, we went with Imodium AD that you just take with water. We went with chewable Peptos, just in case anything was upsetting the stomach. We went with Benadryl. You never know. Histamine blockers, if you're traveling someplace new, you don't know what sort of allergens are going to be in the air. It's also a sleep aid on overnight flights, but you're not supposed to use it for that. And then we also went with ibuprofen because it's always good to have on hand for any, pain that you might be experiencing there. Anything from a headache to a sore ankle to your luggage strap rubbing you the wrong way, whatever it is. And we were really blessed to not have any major inconveniences on this travel. It all went pretty smoothly. You'd like to think that it's because of all the prep and the planning, but you never know. I mean, things go wrong even on our trips too. So that's part of the journey, that's part of the excitement. But India was wonderful. I'll try to post some more videos for you, about currency and some of the things that we saw as a first time in a developing nation. So just stay tuned. If you have any further questions for me, go ahead and drop them in the comments or shoot us an email. Of course, we are LISTTIN, LISTTIN, @gmail.com.